Yo, good time crew.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Justin and Staci's channel.
Justin and Staci TV.
I hope you enjoyed the intro song because I love it, but it's changing soon.
We haven't introduced ourselves in so long. This is Justin and I'm Staci.
And you can find us here at Justin Dorsey TV and Stevie TV Staci, not Stevie.
Stevie Staci.
All right, guys.
Okay.
So we're talking about some secret projects that ruined lives.
That's no surprise.
Yeah, this is actually going to be
All
very
secrets
interesting.
ruin lives. No, I'm just kidding.
Secrets don't make friends.
Secrets don't make friends.
All right, guys, let's do this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let's get it going. Let's find out what they got to talk about here.
VIPE home experiments. This was a series of experiments in Sweden from 1945 to 1955. It's literally going to make you sick to your stomach when you find out what they did. Basically, they force-fed people with mental illness sweets to see if sugar was related to tooth decay. Imagine people just cramming food down your throat against your will. It's very gross. These experiments were conducted by the government and sponsored by the sugar industry. The experiments lasted for about 2 years, and by then, the teeth of about 50 of the subjects in the experiment had been completely ruined. In our 9th spot, we had the UK Special Demonstration Squad. This is the name of a group of undercover police officers in the UK. Now, the things that they did are going to shock you. For example, they would steal birth certificates and identities of people that had died at a young age. They'd make sure that they would be around their age and then use their identities. The younger the person died, the better, because that means they didn't already live a life that they would have to cover up. And then they would go around with this new identity. Some cases they actually got into relationships with women, but the whole time they did so just to spy on them. In November of 2015, the Metropolitan Police Force apologized to 7 women tricked into relationships by these officers. Like, imagine that, dating someone you're madly in love with, sometimes even having a kid with them, only for them to be like, oh, sorry, gotta go, was only dating you to get intel on you and your friend circle. It's disgusting, and it's actually happened to multiple women. In our 8th spot, we have...
What? That's like the plot of Sonic 2 if you haven't seen it yet. Sorry if you haven't seen it yet. I hope you've seen it.
But that's exactly right.
That's exactly the plot. Yeah, she was married to the guy, and he was actually just there to spy on her and be close to the family.
Yeah, but isn't that strange? Because when you think about the benefit, so, okay, they were spying on them, but spying on these specific women for what?
Yeah, for
like, were they tied to something, or is this just random public surveillance spying? Like, you know, what was the purpose?
I'm sure maybe it's like the rich women or whatever like that.
Or people who may be affiliated with, like, I don't know, drug lords or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I'm asking. Is that what this was?
That's definitely what that was. But I feel like that would be so... But it would be real at the same time, because you can't be in a fake relationship that long, you know what I mean? Eventually, you're going to start liking the person that you were faking being with, because you're going to be out with them. You're going to have to take them on dates.
I was about to
you're going
say.
to have to, make love to them at some point.
If you're going to be around for a long time, you got to kind of put in a lot of effort. Like,
yeah,
hit play. Number 8.
The radioactive waste. Apparently, there's a huge radioactive dumping zone located in Tonawanda, New York. In fact, they dumped more than 37 million gallons of radioactive waste from their World War II atomic bomb tests. This area has a high rate of cancer and thyroid conditions, and this is the reason why, and no one's talking about it. In our 7th spot, we have the hepatitis tests. In 1956, the US government began running tests on young individuals living at the Willowbrook State School in Staten Island. This was a state-supported institution for children with intellectual disabilities. And what they did to these students was give them hepatitis in order to track the development of the viral infection. Of course, they were being experimented on without knowledge or consent. To make matters worse, the study lasted 14 years. They also injected them with a number of drugs to see what they would do to their body and the hepatitis. Imagine intentionally making a group of people sick for an experiment.
Yeah,
The grossest part is that when the government was exposed for this project, they tried to justify their actions by saying that these people were probably gonna wind up contracting it anyways. In our 6th spot today, we have Operation Popeye. This is another very wild one. Operation Popeye was a highly classified weather modification program during the Vietnam War from 1967 to 1972. You heard me correctly. The government learned how to control the weather. Basically, they wanted to increase rainfall in certain areas to prevent enemies and military supply trucks from being able to travel. In fact, they caused a number of landslides and flooding in that area. Weather manipulation has since been banned from use for military gain. We are now at our 5th.
Has it now?
For military gain, not for every day.
Not for every day.
Number
it's a
5.
conspiracy.
Number 5. Because we're not going to go there.
We have to talk about these things because they're important. People live their lives just thinking that it's not possible, it's impossible. It's possible. There's possible. A video on YouTube where a guy creates a cloud in a room full of scientists. And it makes it rain in the room. Inside the room.
But you know what's funny about this, though? Can you imagine whose idea it was to do this to the opposing team? I say the opposing team, but, you know, to the other military governments? Like, oh, yeah, haha, let's make it rain. And let's make it flood. Like, I mean, come on. That idea in itself is like, wow.
Number 5.
And halfway mark with HIV. In the 1980s, the HIV epidemic broke out. No one knew how it spread, they just knew that it should be feared, and tons of LGBTQ+ community members were sadly contracting the virus. Well, rumor has it that HIV was a government experiment that was meant to wipe out the undesirables. Of course, the US government has denied this claim, and it's just a conspiracy, we don't know for sure. But based on the other experiments done on minority groups, it's hard to know what to believe. In our 4th spot today, we have Project 112 and Project SHAD, or SHAD. Project 112 and Project SHAD took place from 1962 to 1973 and involved a number of veterans or military personnel. Basically, both tests involved exposing these people to substances they might want to use in warfare. Nearly 6,000 people were exposed to Coxiella burnetii, which is Q fever, Staphylococcus enterotoxin B, which causes food poisoning, and sarin and soman gas. Sarin is a very, very dangerous nerve gas, and soman can cause death in minutes. Both can be fatal if only the tiniest amount gets on the skin. These men had no clue that they were being exposed to this. Moving on to number 3, we have Project Sunshine. This is another very messed up government project. During the 1950s, the US government was using stillborns to conduct radiation tests on. They wanted to determine the effects that radiation would have on humans and how much we could withstand in case of a nuclear fallout. They called this Project Sunshine, and it was anything but rainbows and sunshine. What's sad is that the government was stealing body parts and tissues from morgues without families' consent. It said that more than 1,500 samples were gathered worldwide.
Wow.
This is incredibly sad and sick. Coming in at number 2, we have the Syphilis Experiments. In 1932, the US Public Health Service created an experiment to see the health effects of untreated syphilis. But the test subjects were told that they were receiving free treatment to cure their syphilis. And that was a lie. Instead of giving the men the recommended penicillin treatment, they gave them placebos, like aspirin. Sadly, 28 men died of syphilis because of these experiments, 100 more passed away from syphilis-related complications, and 40 spouses contracted this disease. And 19 women who gave birth passed on syphilis to their newborn children. In 1997, Bill Clinton apologized to the survivors and their families on behalf of the government. And he admitted that the tests were, and I quote, profoundly and morally wrong. And in
So in that apology, I hope it was a big bag of cash, even though money can't replace a life. I mean, it's like, what else can you do?
Yeah.
Right, to make sure that your family's always going to be good for what we did to your family.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that you can give. I mean,
that's insane.
Yeah.
Like
it's not surprising, but gosh, it just really sucks.
But I mean, anytime free, I'm not gonna go there. I was about to,
yeah,
free. We can give it for you right now in this line. All you have to do is sign up. Never mind.
Number one spot today, we have the radiation tests. In 1953, a number of tests were done on pregnant women to see the effects that radioactive iodine would have on them and their newborns. These studies were terrible. Yeah. In one study, researchers gave these women doses of iodine 131. Sadly, they all miscarried. When they did, they continued to study the women's aborted embryos. Another study took place after World War II. 829 pregnant mothers in Tennessee were given vitamin drinks. They were informed that these drinks would improve their health and their babies. But it actually contained radioactive iron, and the researchers wanted to see how fast the radioisotopes crossed into the placenta. Wow. Several of the young passed away from these experiments. 4 died from cancers as a result of the experiments, and the women experienced rashes, bruises, anemia, hair and tooth loss, and cancer as well. Meanwhile, they just wanted the best for their babies and thought that this drink was going to help them, not kill them. All right, guys, that's all for today's video. It's pretty dark.
You know something, though?
I don't even know.
But it's like, what is the... You gotta think about what's worth it and what's not. They were trying to see how fast radioisotopes develop in the placenta, but why? For what reason? Why did we need that? To experiment anyway on these women. That piece of information.
I do not know. But I mean, I have ideas, but I don't know.
I mean, I do have some ideas too. I just think that if you're taking it at face value, it's like, what was the point?
Yeah, like what was the point? Why would you destroy so many lives? But sometimes, and that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, people in this world are crazy. There are some people that are just crazy.
Yes.
You can't. And people are like, no, I don't see why anybody would do that. People are literally
people eating. Are crazy.
There are literally people that eat people.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you
people
know what I mean?
that eat other people.
There's nothing, I'm telling you, there's nothing that my mind is not open to believing.
Yeah.
Like, like when we watched the video of the girl who was, she was a sex worker.
Oh yeah!
And
oh my
the guy
gosh.
said that he wanted her to defecate in a bag
for
a week, and then give it to him.
Save it.
Why? And then what are you doing with this?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? This sounds crazy, but I'm like, people are really out there like that.
And the thing is, people always say, "Oh, why would someone do that?" Because you don't know everyone.
Exactly, because you don't know how crazy some people are.
Right. There are people that are just. Their mind, you probably wouldn't be able to comprehend some of the things that people's minds go through. And I think, I don't know, you see like one circumstance or you hear about something, you're like, man, that guy's crazy. There's a lot of those guys that are around that you just don't know.
That you don't know exist, they haven't been caught, the story hasn't been brought up.
Right. Or they just exist alone in their house doing all kind of crazy stuff. But you know what though? I want to look into that, not look into it, but I want to go back and look at that place in New York where they were talking about they dumped all the nuclear waste or the toxic waste or something.
Is that still a town or did
they get rid of that? Because the pictures she showed, there were like houses, like newer looking houses right next to that open field.
Like as if they're still building on top of this however many gallons of nuclear waste.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know, people, you gotta know where you're living.
I don't know, guys, but I think you said it there perfectly. Things are crazy. People are crazy. You don't know everybody. Why would somebody do that? Just because you think it's weird doesn't mean somebody else doesn't think it's normal.
Exactly. I mean, like, wow. What did you guys think about this? Talk to us.
Please talk to us.
Talk to us in the comments.
Let's have a discussion, guys. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.